I believe from the information I've received that we have core members attending this workshop, and also possibly those who are just stepping out of the university or still undergraduates. I believe there's no better time to have this conversation than now, because our university education would not normally teach us some soft skills that we need when we graduate. And most times the university education in Nigeria and most part of Africa makes us look forward to graduating, because that's why they call us undergraduates. The only thing we look forward to is graduation, and we miss out on other important things we are supposed to be doing before we graduate. And you will agree with me that most of the soft skills that you have today, you never learned them in the regular classroom. You had to pick them up yourself through self-development or attending workshops like this. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but I want you to listen so attentively in the next 30 minutes, and I hope I'm able to pass some very great information to you. I'll be speaking to communicating like a pro, and I have an icebreaker for us to do, and I want us all to participate in this. Right, my first question to you is that look at these three children, these three kids here. My number one question to you is that, can these kids talk at their age? I want to see your responses in the chat. These three children you're seeing on the screen, can they actually talk? I want to see your responses. From the first cute little girl smiling, to the one in the middle looking mean, to these other one crying. Can they actually talk at their age? I want to see your responses. No. Right. I can see no, no, no. All right, great. So if we agree that these children cannot talk, even though they can make signs, right? They cannot talk. Let me see more responses before I go on. Okay, so we have a consistent no. They cannot talk, but they can make signs, and we may not understand even the sound they are making. But my second question to you is that, can these children actually communicate? Look at these three of them. Can they communicate? And if they can communicate, what exactly are they communicating? So if you want to respond, tell me what the child, this number one child is communicating. Tell me what this second child is communicating, and tell me what this third child is communicating. If we agree that they can communicate, even though they cannot talk. So let me see your responses. Okay. Yes, they can communicate. So let me see your responses. This first child, the one, that opened her mouth, what is she communicating? Yes, happiness. The first child is communicating happiness. Yes, yes. The first child, happiness. Yes. What of the second child? The child in the middle, what exactly is that child communicating? Or what are the possible things that child is communicating? The child in the middle. Anger, yes. The second child is communicating anger. Correct. Yes, communicating anger. Awesome. Let's go to the third child. What is the third child communicating? Sadness, right? Awesome. We have a lot of brilliant people in this room. The third child is communicating sadness. Okay, sadness. All right, I love all the responses. And this is exactly what I want us to start with. So if we can look at this very well, we can see that these children, even though they cannot talk, but they can communicate. That tells you that communication is more than just opening your mouth and making sounds, or opening your mouth and just saying something. That is why there's a difference between talking and communicating. Communication is about, being intentional about what you want to say, or being intentional about your body language, or being intentional about the feedback that you're getting from what you want to say. So these three children, they cannot talk, but they can communicate. So if you are an adult and you open your mouth and you speak and you say things that people have to ask you, that did you actually think about what you have just said? Did you process it before you open your mouth? You are not different from these three children here. They cannot talk, but they can When they talk, we can't understand them. When they make sense, we can't understand them, but they can communicate through their body languages and their emotions, right? So it is very important that we understand communication from that perspective. Communication is not about just opening your mouth. Communication can take place without actually opening your mouth. So you can actually communicate with your body language, with your facial language, and with your disposition or your demeanor in itself. That's a great icebreaker that I want us to start with. Now, let me start by reading these three things to us. We talk to speak, but we communicate to listen. Many of us speak without actually, first of all, listening to what we want to say from within us. And that is not communication. Most times, when you don't listen to yourself before you speak, you are most likely to say the wrong things. You are most likely to say trash. So, listening in communication is not just trying to get feedback from the person you are speaking to or the person you are communicating with, but also, first of all, listening to yourself. Whatever you want to say, so don't speak up because you must speak. Speak because you have something to say. That is when communication will take place, right? And that is why we have a particular former Nigerian senator who is a great speaker, but a bad communicator. You should know who I'm talking about. This person will speak all the big English and bamboozle people, and people will laugh. But at the end of the day, you ask yourself, what has this person said? He has said nothing. So you can be a great speaker, but a bad communicator. So you talk to speak, but you communicate to listen. There must be a feedback intention when you communicate. And this will really help you to begin to look at your intention when you talk. Now, good communication is the bridge between confusion and clarity. When you open your mouth and you say something and we get more confused than clarity, you have not communicated. As a matter of fact, communication has not taken place until people understand what you're saying, right? So don't speak to confuse, speak to clarify, speak to communicate. And it is very important for us to note this point. Number three thing is that the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. And I think I appreciate what the former speaker was talked about around people that would say, that is me, that's how I talk, that is me, I give it to you the way it's coming. That is not communication. The illusion that communication has taken place is the biggest error of communication in itself. Most times you have not communicated, but you think you have communicated. And that speaks to how when you have a problem is one thing, but the fact that you are not aware that you have a problem is another bigger problem. So it's the illusion of communication where you have not communicated, but you think that you have communicated. So these three things are so important. Let us establish that in our mind as we go on. Okay, so let me tell you three stories. I'm a storyteller, and I'm going to tell you practical life stories for you to understand and relate and connect with what I'm saying very well. So number one story I want to tell you is, I titled it, "What Have You Said, Young Man?" If you follow me online, you must have seen this maybe on any of my pages. So I was meeting this man that I regarded as a distant mentor, and I was living in South Korea at that time, and he was visiting South Korea. He's a very well accomplished writer and author. I've read many of his works. If I mention his name, many of you might have read some of his works. And I had the opportunity of sitting down with this man for 1 hour. And 2 days before this meeting, I had gone to read all kinds of things. I was putting icing and easing at the back of every word I planned to say to this man, if you know what that means. I had the intention of impressing this man that I really, I regarded so much. And on the day of the meeting, it was a gentleman, and we exchanged pleasantries, and he asked me to, introduce myself. I introduced myself. He asked me to a number of questions, and I saw myself speaking all this big grammar for the next 30 minutes. And the man was there nodding his head as if he understood what I was saying. I was trying to impress him. I was speaking big grammars. Some words were coming out of my mouth, but they were not connecting to my brain. Some words were coming out, and I would be like, Did I just say that? But I wanted to impress this man. And after around 30 minutes of speaking, and we were actually having coffee, he was sipping his coffee and he was nodding his head, and I was speaking all this big grammar. And the man, after 30 minutes, said, "Young man, what have you actually said?" And that actually humbled me. And I was like, so I've been speaking for 30 minutes, and this man was not moved a bit. I was impressing myself, and he was just drinking his coffee because he didn't understand a thing that I was saying. And I had to repeat myself, and I had to speak in simple, plain English. And that was when we were able to communicate. But for the first 30 minutes, I was on my own. And I thought I had the illusion that I was actually communicating to this man. So communication is not about the big words and grammar that you're using, but in the ability you have to be able to communicate issues and conceptualize issues in the most simple way possible that people can understand. So communication has not taken place until you have actually communicated. Now, my second story to you, I named it Dunning-Kruger effect. Dunning-Kruger effect is the situation where you overrate yourself above your ability. And I've named this story this because it's a practical story that happened not too long ago. So I had a chance of recruiting for a tech startup a while ago, and they were looking for somebody that can join their team from West Africa, specifically Nigeria. And I was given that role to recruit somebody for them from the tech ecosystem. And they were the highest quality they were looking for is somebody that actually has worked in a cross-national team or an international team, where people from different countries and languages are, are working together on the same thing. And I received 5 CVs, 5 applications, 2 from Ibadan, 3 from Lagos. And on the day of the interview, I actually select the first person I interviewed, submitted a 6-page CV, very huge CV. And 3 out of the 5 pages actually contained the links of all the fellowships and places he has gone to. So I felt, okay, maybe because this guy is really widely traveled, I guess he might be the best person for this position. And on the day of the interview, I asked him a very simple question. So tell me about a time that you worked in a team and you were a team player, and what were your experiences working on those teams? And his response to me was about all the fellowships he has gone to and the countries he has visited. And I repeated myself. Maybe I wasn't clear with my question initially. And I said, this was my question to you. Tell me about your experience working in a team. And this guy responded again, and he was pitching to me how he's the best for the position, how he's widely traveled, and how many blogs are published about him. And that was the end of the interview for me because it was a simple question and he could not answer it. He was speaking, he was talking, but he has not communicated to me because I was looking for a feedback from the question I gave to him, but he has not communicated. Even though he spoke all this while, he was talking, but he has not communicated. And that was the end of the interview for me. I was done with him. And I went to the application portal. I picked the next one. The CV is from Ibadan. And this young man has not traveled outside Nigeria before. He has never been published on any blog, but he was volunteering actively for different organizations in Ibadan. And I asked this boy the same question. I said, okay, tell me about a time you worked in the team and what were your experiences? And this guy told me specifically a time he was volunteering on a team and he had to act as a devil's advocate for the team to make the best decision. He told me about another organization where he volunteered and they had a team to work on a project. And he told me how he helped the team to avoid groupthink, and that was it for me. He has never worked in an international team, but I felt this guy will work very well with an international team. And as I speak to you, he's still working for that organization in Nairobi as I speak to you. And the first guy, even though he's widely traveled, he has gotten different fellowships, but he didn't know how to communicate. He didn't know how to answer questions. He didn't know how to put his ideas together in one piece. He didn't know how to put his the things he has done together in one piece and present it in a convincing manner. And he was a graduate, yes, but was he communicating well? No. So it is important for young people that are climbing the career ladder to know how to communicate and to answer questions and to conceptualize issues. Very, very, very important. Now, look at this on your screen. And this is, I want to speak to communicating for impact. I don't like people that are just communicating, but communicating for impact. It is very important, you know, the role of communication in the society is so great that with one speech, you can change the world. With one presentation, you can attract a bigger opportunity. So for you to communicate for impact, you need to communicate in 3 ways. And these 3 C's, you must be able to communicate convincingly. And the picture of the man you can see on top of convincingly, that is Adolf Hitler, the most evil man that's ever lived in the history of the world. But there's one lesson we can learn from that man. He's a man that can speak convincingly. Look at the man in the middle. That is Obama. And he's known for speaking confidently, right? Without confidence, no matter what you know, nobody will listen to you if you are not confident. And the 3rd C is to speak clearly. And the man you can see there is PLO Lumumba, supposedly the greatest orator in Africa. And this man speaks clearly. So 3 ways for you to communicate for impact: across board, in an interview, in a boardroom, in a team, in a scholarship interview. You must be able to speak convincingly, confidently, and clearly when you are communicating. All right, let me break that down for you. For you to speak convincingly, you are not just opening your mouth. You are your body language really matters. You know, a fool who is a great communicator can ask you to go to hell, and you will look forward to actually going on that trip. A fool who is a great communicator will tell you to go to hell, and you are packing your bags. You are ready to go on that trip because he has had an effect on you with the way he has communicated with you. But a wise man who is a bad communicator can ask you to go to paradise, and you will shun his advice. You will never listen to his advice because of the way he has communicated. You know, many of you are pitching, many of you who are entrepreneurs and startups, you are pitching to an investor to give you money to test, prototype your idea. But your body language is not even convincing itself. Your tonality is not actually, you have not convinced yourself about what you are working on, let alone somebody that wants to invest in you. Without you speaking convincingly, you might not attract opportunities to yourself. You have to be convincing in the way you speak. Your body language must show that you are convinced about what you're saying, first of all, before people can buy into what you're saying. And the biggest thing a leader can do is to be a convincing leader. When a leader cannot speak convincingly, the followers cannot follow. You know, it is very important for you to blend what you're saying with your conviction for you to be able to speak convincingly. Without you being able to speak convincingly, you may not be able to ace your interviews because you are not even convincing to yourself. And one thing that I've discovered is that it's very easy to actually read somebody that does not have a conviction about what he or she is saying. It is always very glaring. When you're speaking to me and you are telling me about an idea, but you are not even convinced about the idea, I would know by merely looking at you. So a great communicator will tell a lie convincingly, while a bad communicator will tell the truth and the people will not believe him. That is the trick with this. A great communicator can tell you a lie and you would believe it. You know, if a man like Adolf Hitler, a very evil man, can be a great communicator, and look at what he did. After Adolf Hitler finished speaking or giving a speech, people are ready to kill. People are ready to do anything because he's a convincing speaker. He is a great communicator, right? So so imagine if you are a good person and you are a great communicator. Imagine the influence you are going to have in your world. Imagine the change that will happen if you as a good person, you are not Adolf Hitler, and you are a great communicator. Imagine what can happen. Imagine the opportunities you can bring. Imagine the if more, I've been able to judge a lot of entrepreneurial pitch storms. There are some people, they will come with an idea that cannot scale, but they are great communicators and they will get the investment. And people who have a great idea, but they are not great communicators, they will go home without any investment. So being able to communicate goes alongside with all the things that you know, with all your other abilities and potentials. So be a convincing communicator. Now, you speak confidently. A man cannot be comfortable without his own approval. You have not even approved of yourself. You are not confident. When you are not confident about what you are saying or doing, others cannot follow you. And confidence is not, telling yourself that they will like me. Confidence is, I will be fine, even if they don't like me. That is confidence. Being able to, know that you are unique and you have a value proposition that is unique without comparing yourself with anybody. So being able to speak confidently. Go and listen to all the speeches ever given by Obama. Obama speaks confidently. He speaks as if he's the only one on that stage. He speaks as if he's having a conversation with you in the sitting room or on a cocktail party, because he speaks and connects to you directly. So speak convincingly. You must be able to also communicate confidently. Now, number 3, you speak clearly. Now, I see a lot of young people in Africa trying to fall into the illusion of, forming accents. The greatest disservice you can do to yourself is to form accents. British and American accents are not the benchmarks for knowing how to speak. I am a Yoruba man. The first word I said was Baba, not even Daddy, right? So Yoruba language was my L1. That doesn't mean I should not learn the English language and learn how to speak it well, but everybody has accents. The Englishman you are copying has accent. When an Australian speaks English, he speaks the English with his own accent. When an Irishman speaks English, he speaks it with his own accent. And you know the most beautiful thing about this thing? When I go anywhere in the world and I speak, and somebody is able to come to me and say, excuse me, are you Nigerian? And I'll say, how did you know? Say, from your accent. I'm always happy because that is part of who I am. That's my Nigerianness. So all these, forming accents, speaking as if you cannot, swallow one egg. It's not it at all. Learn to speak clearly with your accents. Learn to pronounce the English words correctly. That is what matters. That is what matters. Have you heard the president of the WHO speaking, Tedros? He speaks with his mother tongue accent, but you can hear him clearly. He's not British. He's not American. He speaks clearly, and you can hear him. I am Nigerian, and I'm speaking my English clearly with my Nigerian accent, right? Go and look at Professor Toyin Falola. He's a Yoruba man from Nigeria. He's a highly celebrated scholar, but when he speaks with his Nigerian accent. The most important thing is for you to call the words, pronounce the words clearly. I've heard a lot of young people, they did interviews, for international opportunities, and the feedback that came to them was that the panelists could not hear them clearly because they were trying to form accents. Don't fall into that illusion of forming accents. You are Nigerian. Speak your English language clearly. For me, it is something that distinguishes me anywhere I go. I also like when a Ghanaian is speaking and I'm able to say, that person must be a Ghanaian because it's calling pastor, and it's beautiful. That's what we have. We have our mother tongue. Don't let us lose ourselves in the the illusion of inclusion. That's what I call it, the illusion of inclusion. I've been able to speak on many international platforms with my accent, and I'm speaking clearly, and people can connect with me. That is the most important thing. Don't continue to form accent. I have a lot of friends I don't enjoy speaking with because they They are trying to be who they are not. I'm not American. I'm not British. I'm Nigerian. And I must speak my English language the way I see fit, the way my tongue is, but clearly. So don't fall into that trap. The only thing I will encourage you to do is to speak clearly. Many of you, you will do interviews for international fellowships, and the people that will interview you have never been to Africa. They've never visited your country. But the greatest thing you can do to yourself is to speak clearly, slowly, and pronounce your words well. You are not American. Don't form American accent. When people form accent, they cannot even speak the English normally when they use their accent, and then they are trying to speak in another man's accent. It is wrong. It's the illusion of inclusion. You don't want to fall into that trap. All right. So that is for speaking and using the vocal parts in your communication. Let me speak to your email etiquette, because this is also part of communication. I see many young people send me emails and they capitalize the headings of their emails. That is very wrong. It's unethical. It's not formal. So don't capitalize all the words in your email headings. I've seen many people send me emails and starting with alpha, not people that I relate with on a regular basis. These are people contacting me for the first time officially. They write alpha, how you day. That is not it. You can do that on WhatsApp when you're talking with your friends, but in official emails, you don't do this. And then show courtesy in all communications. Words such as thank you, warm greetings, kind regards, you must include them when you're, show courtesy in official communication. And proofread your emails. When you are replying to an email for an invitation for an interview or just collaborating online, make sure you proofread your emails when you're speaking, right? Or when you're communicating via email. Then don't use for I am. I see a lot of that online. When you send me an email and I see 3 of these mistakes, it speaks to who you are. It could mean that you are a careless person. It could mean that you are somebody that don't care about what people think about your approach to doing things. And these are things that put people off, whether they want to give you a contract, whether they want to give you an opportunity, whether they want to give you a job. It is very important for you to note all these things. Very, very, very important. I see people send email and say, no wala in official email. So you must learn how to disconnect your your unofficial or your social self when you are in a WhatsApp group or you are in your Telegram group where you are throwing bands. So you must be able to separate that from when you are doing official communication. Many people, and I can say this blue, that many people have not gotten the opportunity they want because they are careless with their communication. When you are careless with your communication, you may be shooting yourself in the leg because opportunities will run away from you. Many people are competing for the same opportunity you are competing for, and you want to tighten the knot from the place of communication. It is very, very important. Don't be careless with your communication. Don't be careless with your choice of words when you are doing official communication. I've interviewed for many opportunities, and I've also interviewed many people for opportunities, and we've dropped many people on the basis of communication in the way they write and in the way they speak. Also, like their attitude, even when they speak, their attitude. We interviewed somebody a while ago in my university, and for a volunteer role for a project we're working on, and this person came late to the conversation, and it was 25 minutes late. And when he joined, he didn't even apologize. And it was like, oh, so you've been waiting. So what is the question? What are the questions? And I was like, okay, excuse me. I think courtesy demands that you apologize for coming late, And it was like, then with this, facial reaction, like, okay, I'm sorry. So what are we here for? And then a colleague of mine asked him a question, and he was, you can see he was speaking with anger. I'm sure if he had the opportunity, he would abuse all of us on the call. And that was it for us. That was the end of the opportunity, because you want to have courtesy professional courtesy, formal courtesy and etiquette. All this shows in the way you communicate, in the kind of person you are. So your communication can throw you off easily. That's what I'm trying to say there. So it is very important for you to learn these etiquettes in combination with speaking convincingly, speaking clearly, and speaking confidently. Very, very important. The last thing I'm going to share with you, and I call it this is a bonus prototype. Reject the rejection, but with a value proposition. So I experimented with this a while ago. And if you have the opportunity, you can go on my LinkedIn to read this. The link is there for you. And the story is that I've been applying for a fellowship for more than 5 years. And in 2020, I applied for the same fellowship again. And I was still rejected. And when the organization sent me the email of rejection in 2020, I replied to them. So because of time, I might not be able to touch on this, like to read it to you, but you can go on my LinkedIn, you can read it, and you will read my response to the organization. And I told them that, okay, I quite understood that this was a competitive process. Thank you for the feedback that my application was one of the best, but you were able to select others because they had better applications than myself. But when I applied for this thing, I had designed a technology policy document in anticipation that I was going to be selected for that cohort. So I told the organization that I appreciate their rejection, and I am attaching this technology policy document. I had prepared in anticipation for my selection. If the organization finds it useful for the program, I'm giving it to them for free. They can use it. And 2 days after, the organization actually reached out to me that they saw my response, and the director of the organization actually would like to, give me a chance for an interview. And I had a call with the director. And as I'm speaking with you, this is 1 year gone. So I am a facilitator for the program I was supposed to be a student because of that way of communicating. Because I was able to communicate value to them. You know what that means. That is a turnaround. I'm teaching a cohort I was supposed to be sitting with as a student. That is the value of communication. So let your competence meet your communication. The world will not care about what you know if you don't know how to communicate it. Your choice of words to caress egos when you are communicating in an official space online. Learn how to caress egos. Speak well of people. Let people feel good from the way you are communicating with them. Let people be able to connect with you emotionally, right? Then learn to use the words of affirmation. Learn to use those words, the words of affirmation. Maybe if there's another opportunity where we can actually have, because this is supposed to be a workshop, but I think 45 minutes is not enough to actually do this. But maybe in the future, where there's an opportunity, we can actually have another session where we can break these things down, how you can do them practically. But I hope you're able to take something away from this. And then be a value creator in everything you're doing. When you create value consistently, it helps you to know how to communicate what you're doing. And I don't joke with value creation at every point in time. You can reach the peak of your career or any chosen field if you are somebody that is value driven and not necessarily money driven. Because if you are money driven, you will make the money, but you might feel empty eventually. But when you are value driven, money will come and you will have a purpose that you're living for. So I guess that's the last thing the last slide for my presentation. And thank you to the organizers. And I think I'm on time. Thank you to the organizers and all the attendees. And I hope you've been able to take something away from this session this evening. Thank you so much.